Now we're recording.
Yay!
Woo! Anime.
Speaking of anime, hi, it's me, your local sea witch, stealing voices since the early Disney Renaissance, Samantha.
And it's Mason.
And you know it's good when you hear Raikkan
Topini. Even though, again, anime today.
Yeah, not Raikkan Topini at all. But that's okay, because again, like we've said in previous episodes, it's just a hallmark of the channel at this point. It doesn't really mean what it used to be. So today we are doing an anime movie review. And Mason, I'm going to count on you to pronounce the name of the movie because I will do it absolutely no justice.
Oh, it's called Doukyusei, or Classmates. And it is about two boys who meet in high school. They go to an all-boys school. Sajo is like a very studious student, like very straight-laced, shirt's always tucked in, glasses, doesn't very to the books. And he meets Kusakabe, who is a bit more of like a delinquent. He has like a bleached perm. When he wears his shoes, he wears like bright socks and doesn't even like put his shoes on all the way. He's in a rock band that plays at like 2 a.m. at nightclubs, and it's just about how they end up falling in love.
You gave a lot more in that synopsis than I got from this movie. And so
really,
I just want to warn you all now, I feel like I need to explain to everybody in the audience the reason why I am not good at giving fair reviews to our anime choices.
Okay.
So I want to start with the fact that I love animation, not anime, animation. Some of my favorite movies growing up were cartoon movies. Like there was a period in my life where I could say every line of dialogue in The Little Mermaid from front to back without skipping a beat. And I love Totoro, and I love, other Ghibli movies that have been dubbed for American audiences. And yes, I do watch dubbed. I don't watch subbed when it comes to Ghibli movies because I prefer to get lost in the moment rather than having to try to read everything. Fuck you, makes you mad.
Sam, this is a hill. Okay, as someone who works in animation and also has been in the anime community since I was in the 6th grade, I will die on the hill that the Ghibli dubs are good and worthwhile. I 100% think that they're good. I am with you. They're great. Well, Kirsten Dunst as Kiki in Kiki's Delivery Service was honestly Oscar worthy, and I'm offended she didn't get one.
I don't know if anyone's ever been nominated for an Oscar for doing the voice acting of a cartoon or anime.
No one has. They don't have like a voice acting thing in the Oscars, but they should have opened one up for her.
But yeah, I like animation. And like also growing up as a kid of the 80s and 90s when like Saturday morning cartoons was a staple in American youth, I don't have a problem with cartoons. It's never been the case. Like my childhood consists of Jim and the Holograms and, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers and DuckTales, the original. Like all these things mean a lot to me. But there are a couple of things you need to understand about the difference between those things and the things we've been reviewing when it comes to anime. When it comes to Studio Ghibli movies, they're extremely fantasy, and a lot of, outside of My Neighbor Totoro, I would say a lot of the plot focuses on like magical elements and fantastic elements and, things that you don't really find every day. Like, okay, if you're watching Kiki's Delivery Service, how many witches do you have flying on brooms around your community? Not many.
I so don't get what you're saying because I feel like a lot of their stories are so grounded in terms of like the messaging behind it are so grounded in reality.
I feel like what I like about Ghibli movies, which again, like I said, is the reason why I don't really like a lot of the stuff that we watch, is I like the fantastic elements. I love in Spirited Away that her parents ate the food and turned into fucking pigs. I love that the character goes into the sauna and turns dirt into gold coins and then they turn back into dirt. I love the magical elements. I love the fact that a lot of times there's stuff you do in cartoons that just don't happen in real life. And so you're able to create worlds that would be incredibly expensive to try to make live action, and also probably wouldn't feel the same if they were live action, to be honest with you. There's a certain amount of divorce from reality that is automatic when you're watching a cartoon as opposed to when you're watching live action.
Sure.
And the thing that bothers me about the shows we've been watching is that there are no fantastical elements in these shows. And I think that that's what makes the viewing experience really negative for me. These slice of life shows are just not my style, because when I'm watching cartoons or animated things, I'm watching to escape reality. And I'm not really interested in seeing people do regular things in a medium that allows you to do the fantastic. And that is the barrier to watching that I've been able to recognize after watching this movie. I'm not interested in watching two high school boys fall in love in a cartoon when something else could be happening with them that the medium allows them to do, but that the medium does not take advantage of, because that's not the kind of story this is.
I can't change that opinion, but I will say I like 100% disagree with it. Like, the thing that I loved about Doukyusei was that, okay, they took something that could have been done in live action, but they did it in animation while still taking advantage of the medium in very interesting ways. Like, you don't have to do fantastical elements to still take advantage of the medium of animation. And I think they achieved that greatly in this. So this will be interesting because we are coming from really different perspectives on this one.
Yes, and I think that that's something that needs to be kept in mind when you go back and you look at our previous reviews of animated things and you look at kind of the way I'm looking at this now. It was boring to me because it felt like they weren't doing anything. Like, they were just being people. And I mean, even My Neighbor Totoro, as much as it had like parts that were just atmospheric parts to kind of change the tempo of the story or reset your mind, there were still fantastical elements. There's a fucking cat fest. And I feel like I just couldn't, I just didn't feel that in this. I didn't feel anything fantastic. And I also feel like that's why my favorite part of Given was the mental breakdown scene when like all of his mind was like going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's my favorite scene of this movie. And I think it's because it's a scene that is more fantastical, is more taking advantage of the medium and like the way you're able to storytell in anime as opposed to live action. And yeah, I didn't see it for this one. I didn't see it for this one at all. And it's not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm talking about my viewing experience specifically, but not talking about the quality of what was presented to me.
I totally get that. I really hope I can maybe change your mind or make you see, kind of like how we did it with the To My Star review, where it's like, I came in thinking, this is just the hottest garbage I've ever fucking seen. And you're like, no, there's some really cool things happening here. And it's like, okay, yeah, there are. So hopefully I can do that for you in Doukyusei. You still don't have to like it. I totally get it if this doesn't work for you. But this is a very interesting thing to hear. And I feel like after this review, I have like so many things I want to ask you about in terms of anime now.
Well, that's why I told you before we filmed, I'm like, listen, I'm going to say something that's going to impact my review. And it's going to answer the question why I didn't receive a lot of other stuff the way that maybe you had hoped I would have received it.
Okay, so I have to ask you then, how did you perceive the story? Because when I was giving the rundown earlier, you said, I didn't really get any of that. And I'm like, those were the basics of the plot. So like...
You mentioned his socks. You mentioned his colorful socks and like not all the way stepping into his shoes. And I'm like, I don't recall seeing that at all.
Yeah, he had like bright pink socks. And then like, he would never like step into his shoes completely. He just kind of like shoved them on and like had like his kind of like his soul sticking out, like he jammed the bottom down. You know, people do
Didn't
that.
notice that at all.
You
Didn't
catch
notice
on
that
that?
at all.
Okay, I noticed it. I thought it was.
Now, I paid to watch this. I did not watch this on illegal streaming. I didn't watch it cloudy. I paid $3.99 to rent it on Amazon. So, like, if it was a matter of quality of file, I got good quality, but it's just like the way that it was drawn, those things didn't stand out to me. Honestly, the style of art for this one was a lot more, I would say, conventional than Given was. But in a lot of ways, I felt like I liked the animation style of Given more. Because the color palette was boring in this movie. I told you it.
I'm like, okay, how do I process this? I feel like this is the wrong opinion objectively. Like, Given is like objectively not as well animated in terms of like technicals, and is also the more average anime style in terms of the art style.
It's more colorful. It was funner to watch.
Okay, so you like the colors, but like the actual movement of characters in Given is kind of crap. And I think a lot of the drawings are also kind of crap. Like, okay, sorry.
This movie has more of the stretch and squash that you were talking about before.
Yes, this movie, it has a very almost like Masaki Yuasa feeling. If you don't know who he is, for any other anime watchers out there, he did Devilman Crybaby, Keep Your Hands Off of Aizoken, The Night is Long, Walk On Girl, which is honestly a fantastic movie. And Sam, you have to watch that movie. I will make you. It's so good.
Okay, but you know what I'm gonna feel if it doesn't have my magical elements.
It's super fantastical. It's like uber crazy fantastical. You're gonna love it. Because it really takes advantage of the fantastical. You could never do that in live action in any fucking way. Oh, it's so good, Sam. Anyways, Devilman Crybaby, Lou Over the Garden Wall, Japan Sinks, like Masaki Uwase, Ping Pong the animation, like he just turns out the hits, but he also has a really specific way that he draws and like moves his characters that I guess I can't really explain without visually showing you. But I really loved the animation in this. I thought it was really good across the board. They took the most boring shit and made it look interesting and enticing. Like, I love the way that they walk. Like, again, the straight-laced one, he walks like legs straight up and down. Just like he's very straight-laced, his shirt's always tucked in. Whereas his boyfriend, he's like, he's got his hand in his pockets, he's hunched over a bit. His shirt's usually untucked and he's usually wearing something a bit more colorful that's not just the straight uniform. And he walks with his legs like bowed out like this. It just gives him extra character, you know? Is this making any sense?
I mean, visually, I get what you're saying, that they're, instead of giving them personalities, they drew their personalities.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like the animation gave them a lot of personality.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like instead of giving a lot of personality to their dialogue, they drew their personality on the screen. But that also is a detriment, in my opinion, when you have a story that doesn't have magical elements to it. Because if the personality you're giving me is what's on the screen and it's not like the things that they're saying, or even sometimes the things that they're doing, it really doesn't feel like there's anything other than surface going on. It feels very shallow. And this story felt very shallow. One of the main things I had a problem with is I didn't see what it was about their relationship as they were studying together that led to the kiss. Because I guess when I was watching somebody else talk about it, they said that the kiss was an accident. But the kiss didn't read accident when I was watching it. It looked very purposeful, but I didn't pick up on any romance vibes prior to that kiss. And then when the whole like jealousy aspect took place, and it was like, oh well, you know, it's actually because I like you or whatever else, and it wasn't because I'm trying to impress the teacher. I'm like, okay, I still don't understand where the romance came from here. But that's another thing that I think has been a problem for me in a lot of these anime movies. The romance feels like it comes out of nowhere. Like they're so subtle about the buildup of emotions that when it does happen, I'm like, and where did this come from? And the first kiss, because I looked it up to make sure that I was like, how far in are we on this? It was like 12 minutes in, and this is an hour-long show. So like we're a quarter of the way in, their relationship is established as a romantic relationship. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, but how? This feels incredibly fast. Now, probably it's because it's such a condensed storyline since it is a movie, but I'm just like, I don't get what either one of them see in the other. I don't understand this romance.
I don't know. I liked it. I think this movie is definitely a bit more of like the vibe than like, let me sit down and explain things to you kind of a thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially with like, you said you didn't like the colors, but I think that like, in some ways that works for it because it's very like, what what's the vibe that they're establishing? And there's
Mundane.
something very dreamlike about the way that time works in this, how it's very like we're only seeing these really small glimpses, these really small scenes into their life at a time, instead of like maybe the most like constructed straight point A, point B to this, to this, to this, to this, if that makes sense. And I think there's something very lovely about this like fluid, almost like washed out look to everything in terms of the storytelling and animation.
I guess if there was a narrative element that established itself early on that made us understand that what we're watching is the memories of one of the characters, then maybe the color palette would have been more impactful for me. But that wasn't really established either. Like it felt to me like I was supposed to be in the present. And I remember spending a lot of time thinking this is a really dingy looking school. They have really dingy looking classrooms. This place
That's the point.
is very boring.
Well, that's the point, is it's like a low class school. Like one of the reason that they met is because Sajo is like, even though he's very straight laced and very smart, when he takes these big entrance exams, he can't do it. He chokes, he can't get on the train. He has really bad anxiety. And in high schools in Japan, you have to take entrance exams as well. So basically what happened is he never really ended up taking the entrance exams he was supposed to for the good schools because he could never make it on the train because he was just so anxious about failing the test. So he had to go to the, you know, cheaper, easy school. So like it's meant to look a little rundown, I think.
I can get that. I think it would have been nice though if like that had been mentioned somehow in the beginning. Not him failing the entrance exam, that I didn't need. But like if somebody had established, you know, early on, like this is considered a low class high school, like that would have been nice to know about. Because I didn't
Mm,
take it as that. I took it more of like their lives are very boring. That's how I took it. Now I get that. The reason why that wasn't said is because this wasn't written for a Western audience, it was written for a Japanese audience. And a Japanese
mhm,
audience watching this for whatever reason would know automatically what kind of school this is and why it's like this.
mhm,
So I understand that that's something I wasn't meant to understand, and it's not something they're going to establish for me. But yeah, just watching it face on, my initial impression was like, this color palette is super dingy. The school is super dingy. Like, there's really nothing that catches the eye. Even watching them at night at the fountain where they were drinking the Kirin nudes, the most exciting part of those scenes for me was that Kirin nude soda. I'm like, wonder what flavor that is. Like, is that just so like carbonated water, or does it have like a little sugar to it? I wonder what that tastes like. And then when they drink
mhm.
the lemon flavored one, I'm like, ooh, lemon flavor. Does it taste like Sprite? Like those were the questions that were going on in my mind. It was very difficult to focus on the actual story being told in those moments.
Oh, this is so interesting. I think I just really like this type of storytelling, especially from animation. I find it very engaging. It's very calm. It's very it feels very personal, if that makes sense. Like I feel it just something about it feels super intimate about like watching them together. Because to me, it just felt like two people who just really found each other. And I thought it was really, really sweet. And I feel like I totally got it by the end. Like I was like, oh, they just really like each other. And I
And
like
I
that
think
for them.
and I think that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure I talked about one day when I wasn't planning today, but one day, about the way that boys love is watched from the female gaze versus the gay gaze, the
Mm,
gay squared. The reason why I feel like there's a difference is because I'm looking at it from the perspective of storyline progression. I'm looking at it from the perspective of plot that's being exploited and how the plot's being laid out. I'm looking for action. I really am. Like I love good characters. I love scenery, those kinds of things, but I really am looking for like how the storyline lays itself out. And I think sometimes, and I hope this doesn't come across offensive because it's not my intention. I think sometimes because there are all these quiet heterosexual stories that to me that's mundane, it's something that's been seen and done before, but when it comes to slice of life of somebody who identifies as gay and it's not something that's a big coming out type of story, it's just these are our lives, we fell in love, we're having a relationship, it is nice. To me that's boring because I've seen that over and over again in heterosexual stories, and it's boring to me in heterosexual stories. But when you have a lack of even those kinds of stories and you're looking for something to self-identify or something that shows kind of the way that you would like to live your life or something that shows the way that you identify personally, it is more engaging because you're seeing yourself reflected. I don't see any of me reflected in the story, so it is a little bit disengaging. Whereas if there's an element of fantasy, I'm like, well, of course I don't see myself reflected in the story because I'm not a space cowboy. And I think that is a problem for me in terms of being fully engaged.
I okay, I buy that. I will say that I like personally that's not why I like this. Like I would say I would still like if this was a straight couple, I think I'd still like this movie. And I
Really?
yes, and I'd still
I,
like the style of storytelling because I think something that anime does that I really like is they're really good at quiet, intimate moments that I really appreciate, just like really subtle shit that I really like. Um, and also, I feel like with anime, the way that they tackle their animation is a bit more the feeling and emotionality behind things and less like, let me give you the most crystal clear story. Or like a really simple example is like when you're watching anime and you see like really good food. If you just look at like the way, even in like a Ghibli movie, the way someone like bites into a piece of toast, it's not realistic in their movement, but it's pushed in a way that gets the feeling across of, oh, what does it feel like to really eat something good? And I think that's why a lot of those scenes you remember like, oh my God, the food in these Ghibli movies looks so good because when they eat them and the way that they're drawn and colored and all that stuff, it's not done realistically. It's done in a very like, oh, this is just, we got to make this the most intense experience ever. Whereas I feel like in a lot of American animation, we're like, how realistic can we get it to look like eggs and bacon and someone chewing open clothes? Where in anime, they're like, like they're really going to get into how they move a little bit more. Is this making any sense to you?
it's making sense, but also I feel like that's not the case when I'm watching the things that I like to watch. Like when I watch Soul and they were trying the food while they were still in, I guess, the after slash before life space, and
Uh-huh.
they couldn't taste anything. The food looked good, but like they processed it in a way that showed that it meant nothing. But then
Uh-huh.
when they got to Earth and they were in the current life, present life space, the food all of a sudden they did that same thing where like big reactions and stuff like that. And so I don't say that to say that like American animation is better than Japanese animation because that's not true. Also, a lot of artists work on both. But what I'm saying is, I that exaggeration that you're describing from like the Studio Ghibli are like even a Food Wars, where it's all about the most exaggerated food and those
Mhm.
exaggerated reactions to the food. There, there just wasn't anything. Like I felt like the lights were off while I was watching this movie. Like it felt very dim. Everything felt very dim.
I took it as soft. I don't know. I still think this took advantage of animation in terms of like everything, honestly. Like, I really loved the drawings. I thought that there were some really fun cartoony elements. Like, okay, when Kusakabe walks in on Sajo and Hara Sensei, and he like makes a really like cute little face, and then they have him just like scooch up and then bonk him on the head. Like, that was very cartoony, but it worked. It worked for that scene, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was a good scene. I was glad that he stopped the teacher from hitting on a student. I was like, this is where violence is encouraged. But
Mm-hmm.
then you have another scene where Sajo hits Kushikabe, and it's like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. You know,
I don't like it either. I think I'm just like used to seeing so much anime where like a lot of times characters will like I don't know, like physical abuse in anime is like a very weird conversation that the community hasn't talked about yet, if that makes sense. Because if you watch a lot of anime, yeah, there's a lot of like Naruto is a good example. Like rinse and repeat of Naruto says something stupid, Sakura punches Naruto, everyone laughs, you know?
yeah. And I mean, I can justify that in a lot of ways. I could say that part of that is because shows like Naruto still operate under kind of the Tom and Jerry rule of violence, where there's a lot of violence that goes on, but the violence is tantamount to nothing. No one's permanently hurt. Nothing actually really hurts. It's just an action that's performed and then on to the next action. You know, like I don't look at Tom and Jerry or Roadrunner cartoons and like, oh yeah, that would kill somebody if that happened to them for real. Like I get it for what it is. And same thing with Naruto. But like if this is supposed to be slice of life, if this is supposed to be a character study, then it is asking you to look at it with a different gaze. And that's why the violence here, I could get assaulting a teacher who you think is trying to take advantage sexually of a student. But if you're in a relationship with somebody and you slap them because you refuse to communicate with them, I don't know how I'm supposed to take that and be like, oh, well, it's cartoony. That's why it exists here. Because the rest of it is not cartoony.
I'm not saying that it's cartoony. I'm just saying that this happens in anime and I don't have a response for you. Like, this is just a style thing in anime that I can't change. Like, you just kind of have to either accept it or not.
Right. And in that specific instance, I really didn't accept it. We've talked a lot about style, but let's talk about the story, because also like the story leaves a lot to be desired. I hated Sajo. I thought he was one of the worst people that we watched on one of these shows, and I thought that he was the worst even after watching the Given movie and having significant problems with one of those characters. I did not like this kid, and I did not like this kid for one very specific reason. I felt like they continuously asked you as the audience to understand that every time he failed to communicate, every time he failed to give the relationship a chance, every time he held back too much, that it was okay if the other character had to overcompensate. That every time he misunderstood something and refused to talk about his misunderstanding, it's okay because the other character was there to magically assuage his feelings and automatically make him feel more comfortable. And again, I spent a lot of time thinking this is a couple that needs to break up immediately after high school, because this is not sustainable. Because this kid's not really giving it a chance. Like there was when he told his partner, I'm going to Kyoto. Oh no, he didn't even tell him. When he explained that like he didn't really have a choice, Kyoto's where he's gonna go to school. I remember thinking like I could tell that the other guy's so in love with him that if you had discussed this with him, he would have tried to find a way to follow you to Kyoto. Like I could see him doing that. But
Mm-hmm.
because there was no discussion, I remember thinking like, "Oh, you don't follow him to Kyoto. Please don't do this. This is not. Don't do this. Just let him go. Just break up and let it go." And so I feel like they did his character a great disservice because they never let him give in until the very end. They waited until literally the last maybe 3 to 5 minutes of the entire movie for him to actually give something to this relationship. And that was telling his past and why he felt the way he felt and why he hadn't gotten into a better high school. Like, they didn't have any relationship building. And so finding it out at that time, I remember thinking like, okay, they've been together 3/4 of a year, close to 3/4 of a year. Why in that whole time did he never tell him this? Did they ever talk? What kind of relationship do they actually have? Is it just about them making out all the time? And it felt like this was an underbaked relationship. This was absolutely a high school relationship. Did not need to go any further than high school. And I didn't see how this relationship helped either of them grow, because Kusakabe, you get the feeling that he's going to be the same regardless of whether or not he ever had this relationship. Like, his trajectory in terms of, life after high school doesn't seem like it's affected by this relationship. It'd be one thing if this relationship helped him grow and helped him decide, I need to really think about my future. He still seemed like the future's just going to come. And that's how he felt like before. And then for Sajo, it doesn't feel like he's making different decisions either. He's still going to follow the same path that has been set forth for him by his father and his grandfather. So you kind of have to wonder, what does this relationship serve in terms of the growth of both of these people? The only thing that seemed like a growth moment was the fact that, due to Kusakabe kind of meeting him on the platform, he finally had an entrance exam that he didn't miss because of his nerves. But that's it. That's the only real growth of either of the two characters that I saw here. And so if it's slice of life and it's character study, and it is about their relationship, I would expect at the minimum to see where their relationship with each other helped both of them grow. And that's something that I could say at minimum you did get in Given. You could see where the relationship caused both people to grow. And in this one, I did not see that.
I don't know. I see what you're saying. I guess I just am okay with it for some reason. I
Like,
don't
if this
know.
was live action, we would hate this. If this was like an actual BL show with like real actors, we would hate this.
I don't know. I also think there's a difference between like adapting one volume of like a multiple volume anime and then doing this as like, I don't know, because I think in some ways, like, I view this as like, this is just, I think this is a very neat example of like high school love that maybe is going to grow into something more. And I think if by the end it's that, okay, maybe this is going to grow into something more. And I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I was ready to leave these characters here after this ended. I wasn't interested in finding out where their relationship went. And also, like, that's the other thing about a lot of these anime movies and a lot of these anime shows that we watch, if they've been adapted from manga, is that they almost assume that the audience that's watching this is familiar with the source material. So a lot of things get glossed over because they're like, well, you came here because of the source material, so I really don't have to explain this to you. And so I'm wondering if maybe if this is an adaptation of a longer work, a more involved work, a work that has several smaller story arcs inside of it that build this couple, because they're not addressed in what we saw in this movie, you don't feel the same feelings you get if you were actually reading the manga in real time or watching the development in the manga in real time.
I mean, yeah, stuff was definitely on the cutting room floor, but I don't know how much, because I didn't go back and reread this. I literally just picked up where this ended and I was like, I'm gonna go fucking read the manga now. Hell yeah, this is great. I don't know. Again, I'm kind of okay with it because I don't I think they got what they wanted from it. Like the goal was to make a nice quiet film um that's very emotional in terms of like the characters and how they interact with each other, and I think that's what we got. And I don't think that it is this most we need to have the most elaborate or set story structure like in American media.
I get that. But I also think about, again, live action. So, like I said, if this was adapted to live action, I don't think the story would fly. I think there'd have to be a lot of stuff added to it to even make it worth the filming time. And I'm thinking about other stuff that we've reviewed on this channel that was adapted from manga and turned into something live action. I'm thinking about The Novelist. I'm thinking about Life, Love on the Line. I'm even thinking about oh fuck, I can't remember the name of the one we watched last year at the end of last year, the really good one.
Oh, Cherry Magic.
Cherry Magic. And I'm thinking about, like, in a lot of ways, those were quiet stories. Like there was stuff going on, but it was definitely character study stuff going on, especially like Life, Love on the Line. Other than like the really big marriage story arc, it was basically two guys growing up, having a relationship, and watching that relationship change over the years. But I also feel like those characters also changed, and their relationship affected the ways in which they changed or didn't change. And I don't know, it just felt like there was a reason for the things that were going on. And in this show in particular, this movie, I just felt like there was nothing that happened that actually mattered.
I don't know. I feel like Sajo did change a little bit, enough for me to be like, I'm still invested here, because he
Mhm.
goes from being very closed off to the beginning to being like, wow, you are a person that I think I could really open up and tell these things to.
Mhm.
Um, and I like that for him. Where, yeah, I mean, Kusakabe doesn't change as much, but I'm okay if his change comes later, because this is just very episodic little vignettes. And like, I guess, yeah, in live action, this might not work, but it's not live action. And the beauty of this is that it's animation and it works in animation. And I think
Yeah,
that's why I like it.
and I didn't think that it worked in animation. And I was like, okay, well, maybe if it was live action. I'm like, no, I don't think it'd work in live action either. I just don't think there's anything to this story. I think this story is kind of toothless. But I hope that you appreciate, I'm not an artist. I don't watch a lot of anime. And so some of the things that might be on an artistic level very good for you, they really didn't strike a chord with me. And so it is a very different viewing experience. Very different.
Mhm.
Because I literally am watching this from like a plebeian, uninformed, unintelligent person's point of view. I am a peasant. You're literally throwing pearls before said swine. I'm not catching the gems.
I don't know. I thought it was great.
Well, I'm glad that you thought it was great, because that's what's important. So I want to give you some time, if you'd like to just tell people what you thought was great about it. Because I think I spent a lot of time not being on your same level, and I don't want to finish out this review like this. So if you want to spend some time letting people know what was great about it, I think we'd all love to hear it.
I feel like I've made a strong case for why I like this. I think the animation's great. I thought that the story was very emotional and it worked well for me. I like literally just really enjoyed everything. I like the storyboarding, the shot choices they made, I thought were very lovely. In like how they told the story. I think they used a lot of medium and wide shots to tell the story, and a lot of what are called weather shots, which are just kind of shots of like nature and stuff like that. Maybe the main characters aren't in it. And then their use of like a close-up I thought was very good. Um, I love the character designs. I think they're all really fun, um, in the way that they're drawn. Like they're really leggy. Oh my god, when they like run, I love the animation for when they're running and like how the clothing like warps and spins around them. It's really cool looking. It just really took advantage of like animation. And it's like, oh, this would have been fun to work on. Like, this is just like a really nice story. And I went and read the manga, and it's just so beautiful. And I think there's just like a quiet beauty to this that I really, really appreciate, that I don't get a lot from American animation. So when I go to Japanese animation and I get it, I'm like, yeah, this is just, we're here and we're vibing. And I love that for us. Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that
Yeah.
this gave you something. Because I know that when you watched it, you were super excited. You're like, oh my gosh, I just watched the best BL anime movie. And I'm like, oh, yay. Great for Mason. He needs this boost.
One day I'm gonna find a good anime movie, and you're gonna agree with me that it's good. But every anime we've watched so far, it's not been your favorite thing.
But they've all been kind of in the same vein.
Well, it's either this or like super trigger warning, super rapey, and pedophilic. So it's like, pick your poison with anime and boys love.
And I think that's the reason why I was trying to figure out, if we're going to do this, if we're really going to do this, what should we do? I think that the next anime that we should watch should be Skate the Infinity.
Why?
Because it seems
it's not,
like
it's
seems
not
like
canon gay.
I'm willing to forego the canon gay if it means I get something I want to watch.
I mean, I'm willing to watch it with you because, listen, I'll be honest with you, Sam, immediately after we're done recording, I'm about to go watch the finale because this has become one of my favorite anime that I have watched. I love it. And we can for sure talk about it. But yeah, I will say my big problem with this, and no one agrees with me on this, and it really frustrates me. I am so tired of these anime movies getting away with the bare minimum when it comes to LGBTQ stuff. There's so much like good anime content that it's hinted at that there's gay stuff going on, and it's heavily hinted, but it's never confirmed. And that really bothers me because it feels like y'all are teasing me to watch this, like, oh, come watch it. It's really queerbaity. I don't like that. And it really, really, really bothers me. It's why I haven't watched Banana Fish. People told me it's so good. And I'm like, is it confirmed? And it's like, well, no. And it's like, then why am I watching it? Why do you guys keep doing this to me?
Okay, so I don't know the history of Skate the Infinity, so I can't speak to it. But from what I understand, the Banana Fish manga was super popular before it became an anime, correct? And I think that sometimes with things that have a little bit more gay subtext in the manga, that they lessen that subtext because Japan, much like Korea, is very conscious of how the Western world sees them. And if they have the feeling that something's going to be super popular, they try to tone down any controversial elements in order to grab international attention, or to make it to where if it does get international attention, it doesn't reflect poorly on its country of origin. And I know that that's me assuming. It's not a fact, but I feel like that's the case.
And I totally get that, but I'm tired of being baited for my money and then treated as a controversy. I don't think that's fair. And I don't think that's fair that I have to keep putting up with these type of shows from Japan. And honestly, America, like straight people, like, yeah, if any of the shit that happened in like Banana Fish or Skate the Infinity happened between a man and a woman, you would assume that they were dating. But we just don't have enough queer content where that can be the norm. Because being queer and like is just not the norm yet. It's not seen the same. So we can't have the same treatment, you know?
And I agree. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I think that's what's been happening. In my opinion, I feel like that's what's been happening. I feel like things that are much more queer coded, when the idea comes that they can be translated into a different form, they're like, okay, this might actually get some attention from some people, or this could be big, so let's tone down the gay. And I think that's what's happening consistently. I'm not saying it's right at all. I think it's wrong, but I think that's what's been happening.
Yeah, and I agree. I do think Skate is a different story, though. I think because Skate wasn't based on a manga; it's an original animation. And we can totally do Skate. I love Skate, Sam. I would love to talk about it for hours with you.
Well, I saw a couple of clips and I'm like, I could get into this. I feel like action movement wise, I think I could really get into this.
Yeah, it's good. It's really relatable, at least to me. So yeah, we can definitely do Skate the Infinity. Just
Yeah.
know we're gonna have to talk about what we just talked about again, but like maybe more in depth.
That's fine. I'm willing to do that because I feel like if we talk about it again, you'll definitely come up with some resources and some other things that you specifically want to mention. And then it'll be Mason's rant instead of Samantha's rant. And everybody's been waiting for Mason's rant.
Oh, great. This is the rant that would get me dogpiled, though. The BL girls, they ain't gonna like this one.
You know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. Because I feel like the audience that has followed us for at this point, those that tune in regularly, they're prepared for the spicy opinion. I don't think that we've been shy about expressing ourselves and when we don't agree with the norm.
Right. It shouldn't even be a spicy opinion.
It's
I'm
the
just
correct
saying,
opinion.
make it official canon instead of subtext. That's all I'm asking.
And I agree. I absolutely agree. There's one movie that this is totally not related to anime at all. It's actually a Black film, The Color Purple.
Oh.
It's super famous amongst Black people, and it's a well-known movie because Steven Spielberg directed it. It stars Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey. So like this is not a secret piece of media here.
Yeah.
But there is
won that Oscar.
Well, things happen. There is a bisexual love storyline in that movie.
Really?
Yes. And in the book, it is much further explored because Alice Walker is a lesbian woman and she wrote that book. So she included a bisexual storyline. The character Shug Avery, who's an entertainer, who is like the first love of Mr., who is Celi's husband, she's bisexual. She falls in love with Celi during the time that she stays with Celi and Mr. in their house. And that's the reason why Celi runs away with her, because she and Celi are lovers. And there is a moment in the movie where they share a kiss. And then it is like, I'm moving away with this guy I'm going to marry. Bye, guys. Mm-hmm. I've chosen straight. And as somebody who's read the book, I was really disappointed that that wasn't explored. But this movie was made in the 80s. It was a movie that they anticipated that Black audiences would be more invested in than white audiences. And Black audiences are super homophobic. And so they did show it, but they cut that shit out super fast. And because of that, it became something to where on viewings later on, I'm like, I'm really disappointed you didn't take it there. Especially because at the very end of the movie, Celi's sister, who was in Africa, who she hadn't seen for like 30 years, comes back to America and they share a kiss on the lips. And what that does is it negates the romantic intention of the kiss that Celi and Shug had together, and they make it a friendship kiss instead of being what it was in the book. They were fucking.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about that all the time. Like, there's a certain amount of bravery that media needs to have. They're brave about a lot of things, but this seems to be that last bastion of bravery that no one's willing to go to. And it's crazy because you have movies about men being in love with teenagers, that storyline is fully explored. But you have movies with like teachers sleeping with their students and like all kinds of other things that society has put an absolute stamp of no, we don't approve of this. But those themes are explored fully. But when it comes to gay themes, especially if they feel like the population this is meant for won't accept it, it's completely like, it could be, but it's not expressed, so we're not going to confirm. And there's a certain amount of cowardice that is infuriating, honestly. Like, if I really wish that the media would grow a pair.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mm.
Okay. So, Sam, it's time. What would you rank Doukyusei?
5.5.
9.
I'll let you have that. I'll let
We're
you
both
have
like, I respectfully disagree, but okay.
it. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything. And that's what makes watching us fun, I believe, is that we bring different things to the table. Most of the time, we generally agree, but when we disagree, like, we have our points, and we don't just disagree to be like antagonistic or ornery. We disagree because we really feel the things we feel. And so, yeah, I'm totally. I am pleased with your review because, if nothing else, this just goes to show that if this movie was made for an audience, it found its audience in you.
Yes.
Because there's some shit
true.
that we've watched that I'm like, who is this even for?
Oh, God.
Red Wine
Yeah.
in the Dark Knight. I have to ask, who was that even for?
Who? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some things we have watched that the real question is, what audience were you aiming for, and how did you expect them to feel about this? Because no, and hell the fucking nah.
Yeah.
You know, even fucking End of Love, that first End of Love with the doctor, I'm like, again, even for girls who like boys love, this is unsexy. Everything about this is unsexy.
Yeah, not great. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't have Instagram of the days, correct? Because it was animation.
No, we don't. I did mention to Mason before we started filming, though, that in case you thought that the voices you heard in this anime were familiar, you're not wrong, because the voice actor who plays Kusakabe is actually the voice actor for Levi in Attack on Titan. So that's interesting. I thought that was a fun fact. And then the voice actor for Sajo is Tuxedo Mask in Sailor Moon Crystal. So there you go.
Big roles. Good for them.
Yeah, they have huge discographies. Both actors are in their 40s, I believe. And if you look at their like IMDb or their Wikipedia for like all the stuff they've been in, these guys have been in some really big productions. Productions.
All right. I do have a manga of the week this time. It's another one-off. It's called The Cat Proposed. Let me read the back. Motoi Soda is an overworked salaryman tired of his life. On his way home from a long day of work one day, he decides to watch a traditional Japanese play. But something strange happened. He could have sworn one of the actors had cat ears. It turns out the man is actually a bakeneko, a shape-shifting cat from Japanese folklore. And then the cat speaks. Starting from today, you'll be my maid. Wow, that was a really, really, really bad description. It's just very cute. It's like two people who really struggle in life, and they found each other and they help each other grow, and it's very sweet, and it's just a one-off. It's published by Tokyo Pop. I think the art's nice. Sorry, I'm trying to find something like, yeah, I think the art's nice. I think the drawings are good. I like both the characters. I thought the story progressed nicely. I like how it ended. All good things. A really fun read. Definitely pick it up if you want something nice and cozy with just a little bit of drama to read.
Why do people want to fuck animals?
Well, he doesn't fuck the cat. He fucks the cat in human form.
With cat ears and possibly a tail, right?
No.
Okay, cool. Because like there's a lot of stories that are like people sleeping with like cat boys and girls or dog boys and girls. And I just have to ask, like, is that a part of society that I missed? Is that like your gateway to being a full-on furry? Is that you write stories about wanting to sleep with human animal hybrids?
I don't know. I guess I'm used to it because it's like a really big part of like otaku culture. is like cat girls and stuff. So I'm just kind of like whatever with it. So this didn't bother me. I'm just like, oh, it's cat boys. I feel like I don't read a lot of cat boy stuff. I'll give it a go.
No, and it's not meant to bother, but the question has to be asked, like, what is it with people wanting to sleep with animals?
I guess I don't think of it like when I see a furry that's like, oh, I have a wolf persona, I don't think that person wants to fuck a real wolf. Like, it's so far removed from what a wolf really looks like that I'm like, I don't think they want to fuck a wolf. I think they want to fuck this anime character, this anime looking weird, mostly human hybrid, you know?
Okay, I guess because I watched what is it? Barcroft TV. They're not called Barcroft TV, but they used to be called Barcroft TV. And they did like interview with like some furries, and this guy's like, yeah, I'm actually a wolf, and like even though I am a man in my human form, I am a female wolf in my wolf form, and I feel very spiritually like I am a wolf, and I feel like I can only engage in a romantic relationship with a male wolf, and like it didn't seem like the costume was the issue. Like they felt like their actual spirit was that of an animal, and like it was very much done from a serious point of view. It wasn't done in a way to like be mocking or make fun of these people. But I'm like, like a big trope in fan fiction writing is ABO, the whole alpha, beta, omega dynamic. And a lot of stories talk about humans with these dynamics, but they aren't able to transform into wolves. But there's a whole bunch of stories with people transforming into animals. And there's one story I read not even that long ago, like a human who did not transform because they were from some tribe that didn't do that, and they ended up getting fucked by a full-on wolf. And I'm just like, why do people want to fuck animals so bad? What the hell is going on with society? Who is looking at Fido and thinking, that ass?
I don't know. You're the one reading this stuff, not me.
Listen,
I have to ask you.
I get caught off guard all the time. I'm not even gonna lie. A lot of times the reason why I read is because I'm all about like inflated penises. There's something about a large penis that really gets to me. But some of the stuff around it, I'm like, is it really worth it, Samantha? Are you really willing to feed your kink this way?
Well, I don't know. To each their own, I guess.
Well, it's the burden of being a size queen.
Oh, the heavy burden.
It is such a burden. The things I have to read in order to get more than 10 inches. But anyway.
Oh my God.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. This has been fun. And I think we should tell you about what we're watching next time. Just to confirm, we are watching
Tale of a Thousand Stars.
Thank you. I'm like, is he gonna say it? Is he gonna say it? But yes, we're watching Tale of a Thousand Stars. Apparently, GMMTV has redeemed themselves according to these Twitter streets. We wouldn't know because we haven't watched it yet. But when we do watch it, two things will happen. One, we will give it an honest and sincere review. Number two, if it is not what people have told us it is, you will be getting that GMMTV rant that we promised you a while back.
That we did film, and then the file was shit, so.
The file was bad. But you'll be getting that, because don't think that we forgot. An elephant never forgets. I remember.
Yeah, GMMTV is still on the shit list for now.
Oh yeah, and don't fuck over Ohm again. I'm just letting you know now, GMMTV. Ohm is a family member at this point. If you do him wrong, I am flying to Thailand. I'm getting this vaccine as soon as I can. I will be allowed to show up, and I will show out when I get there. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't give him shit. Give him a good story.
Yes, you'll fly to GMMTV, beat them up, then get some dental work, and fly home.
Yeah, I had a fucking ghost. Come on now. At least give him a boyfriend who's corporal.
Hey, they got around the ghost fucking. They made it work. At very specific times, he could manifest himself.
It's just, I love He's Coming to Me, but that is one of those things where it's just like a ghost. Really, sis? A ghost?
It was fun. I made
It
one like a ghost boyfriend. I was like, oh, cute. I want a ghost
okay.
boyfriend.
We're supposed to be stopping this, but I cannot let this go without talking about the fact that it took great concentration for him to even get a kiss from his boyfriend. He's gonna be mid stroke and he's gonna lose his boyfriend because he's gonna be on the verge of ejaculating and he's gonna lose his concentration and his boyfriend's gonna fucking disappear. Also, we never did establish, do ghosts ejaculate? If he's entering his ghost boyfriend, is he gonna be able to feel anything from that? Is lube even an option? Is it necessary because it's a ghost? Like, is it stretching, rimming, all these things? What are the mechanics? What are the mechanics?
I think you need to have some suspension of disbelief, Sam, and just let it go.
Ghost sex mechanics, GMMTV. You have explaining to do. All right, guys.
I'd like to see more of this. I'm sure it was talked about in our actual review of the show.
We did mention it in our actual review, and nobody put anything in the comment section to explain it. So, like, I bring the question of the community again. Ghost sex mechanics. How, and how?
Start a Twitter thread.
I should. I will lose what few followers I have, but it's worth it to establish how does one have sex with a ghost.
Fair enough. All right. Well, this was a lot. I hope everyone enjoyed the review.
Bye.
Bye.